I guess a big win in terms of like being able to, it took me, I guess, a few hours to kind of work through and figure out, okay, what's going on here, and realize, so that's a big win, is like, okay, man, thank you, Lord, that I was able to finally figure out what's going on and make those connections and stuff. So that is a big win. Just again, trying to give myself grace through this emotional growth process and journey. And just, I want to encourage you guys to try to give your own self emotional, to give yourself grace and space, but also intention to work through it. Normally, I would just let that stuff fester, and then I would turn into dumpy diapers, grumpy Gus, and you know, be emotionally unavailable for my wife, emotionally unavailable for my daughter. And so thank God I'm able to work through this stuff and kind of, again, it took me a few hours, but normally I wouldn't even work through it. I would have just stuffed it, avoided it for 2 or 3 days, being my emotional cave, and come out 2 or 3 days later after all those emotions subsided and I had effectively stuffed all those emotions and feelings in the basement, which only works again temporarily, does not work, over the long haul. EQ gangsters, hope you all are doing amazing today. Today was not a good day today for me. And I've been processing it, trying to figure out what is going on. And I even knocked out a very detailed project. And normally detailed projects can kind of suck the life out of me and almost take the wind out of me, because it just takes a lot of detailed tasks take a tremendous amount of focus and energy for me based on my personality. And so, it took me, it did take me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to knock out that detailed task. And even I had a great coaching appointment in the morning, and man, but here's what I think happened. So I was on the phone with this lady. She's walking me through this website, how to knock out this part of this task I had to do for a couple of my corporate clients. And I saw that a text had come through while I'm on the phone with this lady, and it was from every once a month I get a massage from this super dope, awesome massage lady. It's part of taking care of myself, my jujitsu and stuff. It just helps work out the muscles and stuff. Well, I missed my appointment today with her, and this is not the first time. This may be the second or maybe even the third time. And I hate letting people down, and especially when it's a no call, no show. Like I did not even realize that I missed the appointment, so I didn't call her, didn't give her any heads up, and I think that was the trigger because of my people pleasing, the fact that I'm a recovering people pleaser addict. Man, when I would do that in the past, and I would miss an appointment and totally like space it, and it was my fault, totally my fault. I had no excuse, but other than I just missed it or forgot. Man, it would just send me into the pits. And add on top of that, this may be what's happening. And then the EQ Mafia, which is my business, y'all. That's my business. I missed it this week also. Completely missed it. So I let down all the folks in the EQ Mafia. And then boom, double whammy, 2 days later, missed this appointment with my massage therapist. And man, it just, basically immediately took me to the pits. And again, full transparency here, I immediately reached for two things, which is super fascinating. One is because I don't normally do this. I don't normally do this first one. The second one I have had a tendency to do, but I immediately grabbed my favorite drink, and I'm not even a big drinker, but I grabbed my favorite drink, which is rum chata. That's one of my favorite drinks, and poured me a glass of rum chata, and I was just kind of pissed. And then I went upstairs and grabbed my wife's sophomore in high school class stash of candy bars and started pounding a couple of those mini chocolate bars and stuff. Before I even knew what was going on, I wasn't even aware of like what's going on until later. And then I'm like, man, I feel tired. I'm just going to take a nap. Not realizing, again, tells you how much more of my self-awareness I still got to grow, because it immediately hit me took me into the depths of my emotions. And then I defaulted to, well, I don't normally default to alcohol because that's, again, my typical amount of drinking is, if we go to a Mexican restaurant, which is maybe once a month, I'll have a margarita. And that's basically like my amount that I drink. But the sugar absolutely is one of my default coping mechanisms. And eating and sugar has been my kind of go-to response. And man, so then I slept, I took a nap, I woke up, I'm like, I just still felt crappy. And I didn't like it. I'm like, man, I don't like feeling sluggish and, frustrated and upset. Now, again, I still wasn't super aware of what was going on until, and then I'm like, my wife and daughter had homeschool all day today. And so she's like, hey, are you going to jits? And I'm like, at the time, like, man, I don't want to go to jits. And I thought, man, I have never in 6.5 years of doing jujitsu, I have never gone to jujitsu class and left the class wishing I had not gone to class. No joke. In 6.5 years, I have never left a jujitsu class wishing that I hadn't gone to jujitsu. So I'm like, man, I don't want to go. I don't feel like going. I feel fatty McFatty. I feel like a complete loser and failure right now. But let me just stick and go, even though I feel like a giant turd. And so thankfully, man, thank God, went to jujitsu, because, shocking, man, I started to turn around. But here's what's also super interesting. So what else turned around was, once we started to do the live rolls, which I love, man, the two emotions that I felt that felt good. And I'm a little embarrassed to even say this, but again, I want to be honest and transparent. We have, and I've told many of you guys, I'm at a new gym, and so there's a lot of white belts, and so I'm I always start in a bad position, let them start in a mounted position or side control or back mount or mount, however they want to start, I don't care. And I let them work their game, and if I can sweep them, I'll sweep them, and then I'll let them sweep me back again or tap me or something. Well, anyway, when I swept the first opponent, and it just, an emotion hit me, and it was control. The emotion of control hit me. And I'm like, man, because I was controlling the position. I'm like, man, that was a good feeling. And then I, kind of hang out there a little bit, improve my position of side control. And then I further improved my position and went into mount, which is another one of my kind of go-to positions. And then a second emotion hit me. which is a very foreign emotion to me, by the way, of power. And I just, in fact, I did a Bible, well, it's not a Bible study, but this book, super fire book, awesome book called, oh man, I can't even remember the book. I interviewed the author, a guy named Morgan. Oh man, Morgan, something Morgan. And he wrote a book, Becoming a King, I think is the name of the book. Becoming a King, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And the opening chapter is about power. And it's like, when's the last time you felt, powerful? And I'm like, it's like, I didn't even know how to, like, I never, I don't ever, it's not an emotion that I feel ever. I don't even know, like, what does powerful even feel like? Or what does power feel like? And he's like, kind of went into the more of the book, like, what's your relationship to the emotion of power? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I have no relationship to the emotion of power, I guess. But anyway, so then when I went into mount of my first opponent, I'm like, oh man, it felt powerful to be, and it's mount is like the most dominant position in jiu-jitsu, in my at least in my opinion. It's a very dominant position. And so boom, and a little bit more of the fog cleared. My kind of my funk or fog cleared. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. And so I'm still doing my reflection and thinking through and processing. And I absolutely apologize to the massage therapist. For those of y'all like, dude, did you tell her and I did. I did finally, I told her, I said, ma'am, I'm so sorry. This is, the second or third time, and I please know it's not intentional. I've got to get better systems. And, I'm so sorry for your inconvenience. Anyway, did all the apology and stuff. And, but just anyway, that whole dynamic. And then another thing that I failed at again today was, so when I get to jujitsu, now this is before we started live rolling, so I'm kind of going out of order here, but somebody asked me, one of the guys asked me, hey man, how you doing today? I'm like, oh, it's great. And inside my spirit, it convicted me, because I'm like, that was another people pleaser thing. What I used to do when I was a people pleaser addict, I would tell everybody it's always rainbows and unicorns, and I'm trying to be more honest with myself and other people, letting them know, hey, I didn't have a good day today. I don't feel good, like and not that it's got to define me or it's the end of the world. It's just, I had kind of a blah day, but again, I hadn't processed it all yet. I didn't know why I was having a blah day. But anyway, so that was a failure of mine. And I never went back and told him, I said, hey, told him that, hey, look, man, I lied to you. I'm actually not doing super hot. I'm fine. I'm just don't feel very good, because I don't know why. I'm feeling kind of blah. And so so that's like a double, triple failure there on my part. So number of things. So those emotions from my people pleaser addiction days hit me after missing that appointment today with my massage therapist. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And then also the inside of the power and control, that was also super fascinating as well. And yeah, so and I'm trying to also give myself grace and trying to be okay with having a blah day, like just, I did 2 naps today. That's great. I don't ever do that. I'll take a nap here and there, but like 2 a day, I don't take 2 naps in a day. And so anyway, those are some insights that I had today from a couple failures today. And I guess a big win in terms of like, I, being able to, it took me, I guess, a few hours to kind of work through and figure out, okay, what's going on here, and realize, so that's a big win, is like, okay, man, thank you, Lord, that I was able to finally figure out what's going on and make those connections and stuff. So that is a big win. And, just again, trying to give myself grace through this emotional growth process and journey, And just I want to encourage you guys to try to give your own self emotional, to give yourself grace and space, but also intention to work through it. Normally, I would just let that stuff fester, and then I would turn into dumpy diapers, grumpy Gus, and you know, be emotionally unavailable for my wife, emotionally unavailable for my daughter. And so thank God I'm able to work through this stuff and kind of, again, it took me a few hours, but normally I wouldn't even work through it. I would have just stuffed it, avoided it for 2 or 3 days, be in my emotional cave, and come out 2 or 3 days later after all those emotions subsided and I had effectively stuffed all those emotions and feelings in the basement, which only works again temporarily, does not work, over the long haul, because unaddressed emotions don't get better over time, they actually compound. So I'm also super thankful for our homeschool program, Classical Conversations. Check out classicalconversations.com/Gibbons. There's a couple free resources there as well. If you are at all thinking about or considering homeschooling, honestly, just check it out. You will not be disappointed. Maybe it'll lead to, you know, a conversation or a couple conversations or something like that. So classicalconversations.com/Gibbons to get more details on the homeschool program. Thank you all so much for, if you wouldn't mind taking 15-20 seconds to rate, review, share, subscribe to the podcast or YouTube. For the YouTube folks out there, thank you for being on YouTube and consuming content that way. And if there's again an episode that resonates, please share it. And if there's a friend, family member, colleague, coworker that you think you could add value to, I would really appreciate it, because the goal for me is to get as many leaders and people as emotionally healthy and emotionally intelligent as possible. Emotionally intelligent leaders create emotionally intelligent cultures and organizations, which lead to optimized and maximized outcomes, results, engagement, and performance.